Hey there guys, John Campea here, and thank you for visiting my movie vlog. I know we already did our full episode review of this week's episode of Game of Thrones Eastwatch. Now, I'm about to talk about something that's kind of spoilery, so if you haven't seen this week's episode of Game of Thrones yet, just save this video and come back later. Okay, now to give a little bit of context to this whole discussion here, and we're talking about Daenerys, is that up until this week's episode, Daenerys, I've been saying, who used to be one of my favorite characters in the show, is becoming a bit of a dick. Like, she has become so egotistic. Everything is about her. Everything is about everybody in the world now bending the knee to her. Why? Because my daddy was king. That means I should be queen too. And it just seems like this once noble hero, the breaker of chains, has been letting it all go to her head. Maybe there's a little bit of the mad king daddy in her too. Even Tyrion has been recognizing, and Tyrion is a guy who grew up around people who went mental with power, who started being corrupted by power and done evil things with power. He's seen it up close and personal in family for a long time, and he's starting to recognize it in her. Like seriously, Danny walks into a Starbucks, like, I'll have a double mocha latte and bend the knee. So okay, so then last night's episode comes around and the battle has happened and she won. She won the battle. The battle is won. They've defeated the other army. As a matter of fact, they've got a few of the survivors now all held captive, right? So everything's good. They won. Day over, right? But no, what she decides to do, this woman, this leader, who's the breaker of chains, who has inspired other people to follow them. Like, she didn't threaten the Dothraki to follow her. They chose to follow her. She didn't threaten the Unsullied to follow her. They stood up and wanted to follow her because before, in seasons past, she inspired that type of loyalty, that type of love that would make people believe in her and want to follow her. That's why I was a big fan of hers. But then last night's episode happens and we see the turn continuing to take shape as she's becoming more and more villain, because instead of trying to inspire these fallen soldiers about why they should follow her, she decides to do what villains do, which is try now to rule and influence by fear. And how does she do that? She says, follow me or die. And I'm hearing a lot of people online saying, well, John, she gave them a choice. Saying do this or die is not giving a choice. So anyway, she pulls out Senior Tarly and his son, Dickon, what a great name, by the way, pulls them up and says, look, last chance, bend a knee to me, because everything's about bending the knee. Bend the knee, give me that mocha latte, and bend the knee or die. And they say, no, they have too much honor. I say, no, we're not going to bend the knee. So instead of even just executing them, she drags him in front of the dragon, in front of all the other soldiers, so she could instill fear. Again, doing what villains do. And she has them burned alive. She burns the dude alive beside his own child. Now, I made that point in the review that we did, but I had some people writing to me saying, well, John, it's war. I mean, soldiers die in war. That's what happens. This was not war. The battle was over. There was no battle going on. The battle was done. She won. She now had prisoners. That's it. What she did is called, in the modern context, war crimes. She's a war criminal. And you can try to talk your way around it all you want, but it doesn't get away from the bare essential facts. The battle was done. The battle was won. She had all the defeated army in front of her and their captors. She had captured the rest of them. They were no threat. They posed no threat whatsoever. And she says to them, join me or die. And when one dude and his kids say no, she puts them in front of a dragon and has them burned to death so she can instill fear in other people. Guess what, folks? This is what's called the villain. We're seeing here, and this is actually one of the brilliant things about Game of Thrones, which makes it so good, but we're seeing the continuing evolution of Daenerys from being somebody who wanted to change the world and understanding she needs to accumulate power to bring about that change, to break the wheel, as she used to say. That's what it started out as. That's where Daenerys began, wanting to change the world, understanding I need to accumulate power in order to do it. We've seen that evolve, though, now to Daenerys just the whole goal now is accumulating power. I'm owed the throne. I deserve it. It should be mine. I'm entitled. Like, that's what's becoming it. Everybody, you bend the knee, you bend the knee, you bend the knee. Oh, and by the way, if you don't, I'm going to kill you. Not only am I going to kill you, I'm going to burn you alive beside your own children, and I will instill fear into everybody else to make sure they don't mess with me. They have to obey me and follow me because I'm the queen. We're seeing this evolution. And again, this is a great thing. I'm loving this about Game of Thrones because it shows that the writers here are fearless to have these types of character arcs. My message is not to the writers of Game of Thrones. I think what they're doing is brilliant. My message is to Game of Thrones fans who still want to say, oh, no, Daenerys is still good. Yeah, I understand why she did what she did. Yeah, it's totally cool. I swear to God, I think on the next episode of Game of Thrones, I talked about this before, she could literally... You could have Dany just walking along the beach, seeing a baby seal, pick it up, pet the seal, and then club the seal to death, saying, Bethany, 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 as she beats the seal to death. And there are Daenerys fans out there who'll just go, oh no, she had to do that, right? Because it's symbolic of the Iron Throne being, no. There are people who will still defend her, and it's driving me crazy. Dany is straight up acting evil. Just call it what it is. And look, there's nothing to say that the Game of Thrones writers may not have in store like a new curve in her arc where maybe Jon Snow does finally talk sense, or maybe Tyrion really makes her see the error of her ways and she gets back on her original mission of wanting to break the wheel and actually truly be a liberator, not just a ruler. That could happen too. We can see a whole bunch more twists and turns with this character. It's beautiful so far. I just wanted to get on here and vent and say, I'm sorry. I don't care if you're a huge fan of Dany's. I have been a big fan of Dany's, but what she is doing is straight up evil. Anyway, I just wanted to vent about that. Have you been watching Game of Thrones? Did you see the episode? What are your thoughts on this? I'm sure they're as passionate as mine. One way or the other, it's all good. Jump into the comments section and leave your thoughts. Listen, guys, while you're here, make sure you take a second, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Do you enjoy the 70 to 90 videos I put out every month? Consider becoming one of my Patreon supporters. Look in the description below for a link to my Patreon page and find out all more about it. And that'll do it for me, guys. Thanks a lot for joining me. Until next time. Bye-bye.